Boom, what is good? What is happening, everybody? It's your boy Ferris and Blana, and welcome to a special edition of the Highlight Sports Show. On this edition, we got a Highlight Sports Show review. We are going to start doing sorry, man. They were in my ear, man. It was screwing me. Mikey was screwing me. Yeah. But it's a special highlight sports show. On this sports show, we're going to be reviewing Basketball County in the Water. It is the basketball documentary on Showtime about PG County, Maryland's own. It's all about how they produced 30 NBA players, over 100 Division One basketball players, and I believe a couple of WNBA superstars like Marissa Coleman, who was the number 2 overall pick from the University of Maryland in 2006. But I am not alone. I got a man who was born, bred, and raised in that environment, who knows that region better than me than I'll ever know. It is the one, the only. It is Mikey from OTR. Mikey, how are you, my brother?
I'm good, man. I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah,
Let's
man.
get it, man. This is dope doc.
So I've watched this doc twice, right? And the first time around, I thought it was how this little small county, man. It's like barely small as heck, because they put the map, the Beltway, how it's like, there's the big borough of Maryland, and there's like a little PG county, and I'm like, how the heck did that small county, over 100 Division One basketball players, 30 NBA players, Kevin Durant, Michael Beasley, Quinn Cook, Nolan Smith, Ty Lawson, Jamar Johnson. You're like, whoa. No other region in America has done this. Each region got 1 or 2 guys. You know what I mean? In the Bay Area, we got a couple of folks. I think we got Kid Peyton from Oakland.
Yeah.
Gonzalez played football. Aaron Gordon actually is from San Jose. He went to Archbishop Mitty. We got a couple of cats. There's other people that can't on top of my mind, but like 30 NBA players, and I'm not just talking about 30 regular NBA players either. Like most of these were lottery picks. Like, yeah, Mikey, like you were like, you're slightly older than me. You're probably older than even Kevin Durant. So you saw this, like when you were in the moment, seeing these kids, seeing Nolan Smith, seeing KD, Ty, like what was going through your mind? Like, yo, these some bad dudes.
I mean, I think Maryland gets his props for being a hotbed for talent in football and basketball, right? But sometimes because I'm here, sometimes you kind of sleep on actually what's here. Like you don't realize. I mean, it's talent, but you don't realize how much is here until you see a documentary like this, right? And then they break it down like all 100 plus D1 basketball players, 30 NBA players, etc. And it's just like, damn, like it's like, wow, all right, okay, this is dope. But like during those times, you would always hear about, for example, like KD, you would hear about him, Mike Beasley. I was involved in the AAU circuit for a while. I started my own AAU team on a small level, but I would try to take them to places where, you would see DC Assault and DC Premier and those type of AAU teams there, and it was just a whole different ball game, man. And like you would catch yourself sitting there watching, because you're like, damn, like who is this kid? Oh, that's Kevin Durant. Oh, that's Michael Beasley. And you're just like, wow, like these dudes are serious. So it's like it would be nothing to go to a high school basketball game, because you hear like one of these kids will be playing, so you just go and it's like one of the best games you'll see. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Now, man, it's funny, but I just picture man like this 5'8" kid. It's probably this little sophomore kid in high school. Like, oh, I'm playing some on an AAU team, and then like they roll up to the gym and Kevin Durant walks in, and you're like,
yeah,
what the hell?
Yeah.
And then like you're like, oh yeah, we're against this team called DC Assault guys. Like, okay, cool, coach. Yeah. Beasley, Smith are there, and you're like, what the hell? Like, I just wanted to play ball. Like, nah, I'm gonna take your soul.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
my claim to fame, or my funny story with that is, we did have to face DC Assault, right?
Ooh, so, Mikey, tell me the story. I want to know.
We now, of course, we saw their C team or whoever this was. Like it wasn't Durant and those guys, but these dudes were still sick.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And
Durant played for the PG Jaguars, by the way, not a
yeah. But it wasn't Beasley. Yeah,
Yeah,
PGJ was, but it
yeah,
wasn't Beasley or none of those dudes. Like it was their C
yeah.
their C or D team, but these guys were sick. So we, everybody knows who DC Assault is. My kids, I brought them in, just created a team from a little small county I'm from. It's called Columbia or
Mhm.
Howard County, Maryland, which is right next to, it's neighboring to PG County and some of the other counties here. But um, so we all know DC Assault. So my kids are in awe of these kids, and some of the players from DC Assault are showing my kids a phone with footage on it of them dunking the basketball, like 5'5" dudes, point guards, like dunking, and my kids are like shook. They're
Like
just like, and
pops,
I'm
we
like,
need to
yo,
talk.
get over here. I was like,
We
get over
need to
here, get
talk,
over here.
pops.
Don't talk to those guys or whatever. Like that's who we got to play.
Yeah.
And we ended up matching up. We ended up matching up with them, and it was just like, all right. And one thing I could tell my kids was like, look, if you're scared, you're not. Don't, just sit down. You're not gonna play because
Mhm.
you can't be scared against these guys. And we played our butts off, and we only lost by 16 points. So we got our
Yeah,
ass
yeah,
whipped,
yeah, yeah, man,
but
yeah, yeah,
16 points, I was like, well, shit, they didn't blow us out.
yeah.
So the end of the game, one of the coaches, he came up to me and he was like, man, like for y'all to be who you are, unknown team, like where y'all from? I told him where we from, and he was like, dude, you're like one or two like big men away from being a legit threat, and ended up being one of Michael Beasley's uncles. And and I didn't, I just said good game to him, and he pulled me up to share that little nugget with me, which I thought was dope as well. So, but yeah, man, another thing to that story. So at this tournament, they have this big, the bracket of the what's going on
Yeah,
in the
yeah,
tournament.
yeah.
So we just played this team. DCSR played them before us or whatever. We played them. Oh no, DCSR might have played them. No, they played us. They played this team after us, which led to us matching up with them next. We beat this team by 35 points, right? And we smashed them, and it would have been worse because we pressed a lot, and I
Mhm.
even asked my kids like, "Hey, you want to take the?" They even told me like, "Coach, just take the press off because they like
Mhm.
we're whipping them." Cool.
Yeah, yeah.
So we're feeling good. They add the score to the bracket. Yeah, they see, the Columbia Saints blew out this
Mhm.
team, bro. We're sitting for a while. Maybe an hour later, we go back to the bracket. DC Assault beat that same team by 100 points in that tournament. And again, that was another moment where I'm like, yo, hide that bracket. Don't let my kids see that bracket because I knew we had to play them next. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it was just legit, man. The talent was just sick. It was sick.
That's it. Yeah, no, Mike. Like you said, when Beasley's uncle pulled you aside, that type of camaraderie in this documentary, that they really pointed like the
Mm-hmm.
camaraderie and the friendship and the togetherness of that region. Like Beasley and Smith lived in Curtis Malone's house
Mm-hmm.
together. Then they added Quinn Cook. You know what I mean? And then Kevin Durant was like nearby. He was like right there.
Mm-hmm.
Like those four guys were like interconnected and stuff. You know what I mean? Because Beasley and Durant were like move around, and they would go to run and shoot. We found out run and shoot still open, still running
Mm-hmm.
some games probably.
Mm-hmm.
So like the way the documentary was, like we talked about this before we went live, Mike. The way the documentary was set up, right? It was like I said to you, it was like pizza.
Mm-hmm.
Those slices, you know what I mean? Like they gave you bits and pieces of it, right? When you you being a Maryland native, the initial part of the Black father basketball, that part, did you know that about that? Did you like did everyone ever talk to you about this? Or were you like when you watched you're like, oh wait, word? That happened?
Yeah,
Like what
that
was
was
you going
new.
through this? That
Yeah,
was new?
that was new for me when I first saw the doc. I didn't know anything about that. Um, I did, as they later on went on to, DeMatha and stuff like that.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I didn't know that that was pretty much the start of basketball in this area. With
Mhm.
like they said, like you said, they called him the Black Father of basketball. And he learned, I believe, he learned under
From James Naismith,
yeah,
direct.
James Naismith, and then he brought what he learned here to what would end up being a talent rich area for basketball. I had no idea until I saw that in the documentary.
Yeah. So like basically like the PG County fundamentals are the basically like the DC moving
Mm-hmm.
basically like
Mm-hmm.
when you find out there's like that DC connection, like what was going through your mind? You know what I mean?
So so I
Because I don't live in the region, right? Like you in there, you in the thick of it. You know what's going on. Like when you find out the stuff about the region you've been living on your entire life, like you're like, oh, I didn't know this.
yeah
This is pretty cool. Like
yeah
yeah,
it was super dope to find that side of it out. Like to give you a rundown of how this area is structured, right? So it's like
mhm,
I'm you have North Maryland, which would be Baltimore,
mhm.
Central Maryland, where I currently am, where Jose and I grew up or we lived in, and then
Columbia,
you have
Columbia County,
yeah Columbia. So it's Howard County, but it's Columbia.
mhm.
Columbia is actually the second biggest city in Maryland,
Maryland. Okay, got you.
but it's like it's not all that big, but
Yeah.
next to Baltimore is the second biggest. So that's in the central, and then southern is where you have PG County, which is right outside of DC. So that is one of the you know that was one of the good things about being where we're from, because we are literally 15 to 20 minutes outside of Baltimore and 25 to 30 outside of DC. So we got the best of both worlds in that regard. And pretty much like it just became when those two areas, would merge when it came to sports, it would just create this great scene of just like talent, basketball, football, everywhere.
Mhm,
So I knew about the movement from DC because a lot of those kids, grew up in the DC area, which the conditions weren't the greatest, and it is a city that was riddled by drugs and other things, and it alluded to that in the documentary when there was it started around the time when Martin Luther King got
King
killed,
got shot.
and
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, and the riots and stuff like that, and a lot of the people from the cities,
U
the inner
Street.
cities, moved out. Yep, they moved into the neighboring counties, which
Mhm,
was PG County. So, um, I knew that side of the movement, but having a guy that was here that they called him the Black Father of basketball. I mean, I think that
mhm.
just makes the whole story even that much more dope to know that
Yeah,
this area kind of originated a lot of those things.
yeah. So Mike, so like during that they kind of transitioned over to the DeMatha rise, right?
Mhm.
They hired Morgan Wooten. I believe is Morgan still alive? I believe, or did he pass away? I think.
If he did, it would be recent.
Yeah, 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 because that man lived to be like 90 something. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
he was. No, yes, I am. There it is. Yeah, he passed away 2 years ago in 2020.
Okay. Right.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. So DeMatha,
Hmm.
like DeMatha isn't just a Maryland. No one just know DeMatha. Everybody know DeMatha. Like literally,
Hmm.
I knew DeMatha before I even knew. I didn't even know DeMatha was in Maryland. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? You know what I mean? Like I'm like no, like no, like yeah. I'm showing my age. Like I knew what DeMatha High School was. I knew who more like the the best college, the best high school player award is named the Morgan Wooten National Player Award.
Yep.
Like I knew who Morgan Wooten was. I knew DeMatha. Like I know you know like when you were there, what was DeMatha like? What was the rise? And because what did people tell you about DeMatha? Because it kind of transitioned. Because Morgan's theory was, I don't care if you're white, black, green, or blue.
Yeah.
You play ball, you're playing for me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So here it was like I've never seen the math and not be good.
Okay.
So even with my age, I just turned 40. So even in my lifetime, never seen them not be good. And if you were a player that went to DeMatha, we knew like you were good.
Who you
Or
were?
yeah. And if you grew up in the same area that I was, like you said, again, you could be a player that's from Columbia, where we're from, or Baltimore, or whatever. So you rub shoulders with some of these guys, and they grew up in the same area as you, but the Mather was coming in and getting them. Like, hey, and if we knew that you were getting recruited by the Mather to come there, we knew you were a straight baller. No matter what it was, you were a baller. So it always DeMatha always had that, the allure that everyone knows about from, Morgan Wooten, and what we hear about on what, the history of it is there. It's always had that. Even with us being here, it's always had that. And the same with me. Like, you just heard of growing up, you heard of DeMatha, but you didn't know where it was. Like, I didn't know where it was. I just knew it was in Maryland, but I didn't know, like,
Yeah, like your homies just getting plucked out of nowhere and just dropped in some random ass region. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, oh, hey, where'd Sydney go? He had DeMatha.
Oh, wow. Like, oh shit, he must be
gonna,
good then.
Yeah, we ain't gonna see him in 4 years. You know what I mean? We'll see that motherfucker on college ball. You know, because if you think about it, man, like okay, so I knew about DeMatha, right? But I kind of forgot about DeMatha, right? And then this young kid, dude, probably the weirdest story in all of NBA draft history, Markelle Fultz. Y'all know who Markelle Fultz was. He brought DeMatha back. You know what I mean? Because he was the first number one player from DeMatha in a while, right? I don't know if it's a while, you know what I mean? Because I think DeMatha has always been good. Like, they've been good as a team, as a unit, and they dominate that region. But their players weren't like, they had Victor Oladipo, who was like a 3-star, who went to Indiana, developed and became Victor Oladipo. But Markelle Fultz that's the number one point guard in the nation.
Yep.
That's the number 2 player in the nation. That's that dude. And I was like, oh, shoot. Yeah, DeMatha. I remember DeMatha. Yeah, DeMatha. Duh. And then that was the point Mike Jones took over. Because Morgan Wooten retired in 2012. And I'm just like, dude, I'm just in awe, bro. Because, like, there's always been this argument, right, Mikey? Like, where is the best basketball played? What's the mecca of basketball? Where is the pinpoint? Like, yo, that's B-town. That's basketball town right there. People say New York, the mecca, right there. You know what I mean? And for years, that's true. For years, it was true. And then, Chicago would throw their name in the ring. Like, yo, what about Chi-Town? You know what I mean? But then, like, I think because, like, New York has kind of slowed down its production of NBA talent. You know what I mean? Like, out of the top of my brain, I know 2 people who are New York cats that you're like, that's that dude. Some people don't even think they're that. Karl Anthony Towns is he's from Jersey, actually. He doesn't count. He's from Jersey. Donovan Mitchell. Mitchell from Brooklyn. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. And Obi from Brooklyn. Obi and Mitchell from Brooklyn. I don't know anyone else in the NBA that you're like, yeah, he's from New York. But I can count like 6 people on my hand that, yo, they're from Maryland, PG County. Durant's still there. Cook's still there. You know what I mean? Like it's like Victor Oladipo's still in the NBA. You know what I mean? Markelle Fultz is in Orlando. And you're like, oh, snap, crackle, pop. There's still some cats out here. You know what I mean? So I'm like, yeah, man, they transition over to like they start talking about, like, I think the reason that Kevin Durant, Quinn Cook, and Markelle Fultz, especially Markelle Fultz, right? Especially that get they talk about the competitive edge, right? The games on the hard court outside with your homies. They interviewed a bunch of former NBA players, Sam Young, DeMar Johnson. They talk about, and like they would say, Adrian Dantley, yo, that's how back they went, bro. They went to Dantley, bro. And Dantley says, yo, man, you got to get at the park till 9 o'clock, right? You got to wake up early, 9 o'clock. Because if you don't get there at 9 o'clock, you're going to wait till 11.
You're not playing. You're not
playing until for 2 hours, right? Because it's going to be a queue. And then some people were like, yo, if you suck, no, it was like Dantley was like this. If you lose a game, go home.
That's it. Yeah, you're not playing.
Yeah, you're not playing. And then someone was like, if you lose a game and they find out you suck, you ain't never stepping on the court. Ever. You know what I mean? Like, do you think that environment, right? You know what I mean? Good, bad, indifferent, whatever it is, creates a level of intensity and edge from people like Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant, the way he plays ball, right? Kevin Durant's a bad dude, right? But like the way he plays ball, you're not gonna speak on my name, dog. I'm that dude. That's why he got time for these folks on Twitter. Like, yo, I had time for dudes on the court who would call me skinny legs. I got time for Joe Bro 75. I got time for you. Like, do you think that environment creates a level of intensity like not seen or heard of yet? You know what I mean? What do you think, Mike?
I think it's one of the more unheard of or unseen environments. I know they say, like, you mentioned New York before. I know they say, the street ball, pickup game life in New York can be tough and it can breed a lot of tough players. But here, the one thing about here, and they spoke about the competition and the competitiveness here. The reason it's like that is because these guys come back home and they play here.
Mm-hmm.
So like it was nothing. Like I said, AAU team that I coached, you know, my boys might have a game at the same gym where, you know, you'll walk in the gym and you'll see people like Sam Young playing.
Mm-hmm.
And oh man, the dude, I think his last name was Boone. He went to UConn, light skinned kid with the plaits. Oh man, I can't think. I want to say his last name was Boone, but anyway, like you'll see these guys like coming to get run.
Mm-hmm.
So you know it only makes, and they'll play against the next up and coming crop of people. So you know KD and them when they coming up, you know they're balling with dudes that are in the league
Mm-hmm.
or playing high Division 1 basketball. So it's and they're playing with these cats in 8th grade. They're 8th graders playing with these dudes. So it's only gonna make that only makes them better, and that is one of the more special things that I've noticed about this area. Is like these dudes, they you know they make it, they go away to college. They some of them make the NBA, but they come home and this is where they sharpen their skills because they know the run here is gonna be it's gonna be like that, and that's why places like Run and Shoot was like, you know, run and shoot on a weekend. It didn't
Pack the
even need to
gills.
be weekend. It wouldn't even need to be weekend. 7 days a week, run and shoot was popping because the run there, it was just, you know, and I think Kevin Durant alluded to that. Like, man, they were there all day long. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? So yeah, I do think that that played a huge part into them being competitive to like they are. I mean, you mentioned Oladipo. Oladipo on that DeMatha team that he was a part of was a bench. He didn't start for that team, and he ended up going to Indiana on a full ride. Jeremiah Grant, same thing. He wasn't a starter on those DeMatha teams, but he went. But that's how talent rich they were, man. It's something I haven't seen. It's out of this world, man. When you actually think about it.
Yeah, so Mike, hey man, Mike, this is phenomenal. Because man, the way I think, bro, because I want to know. I mean, that's the way I roll, man. Like,
Mhm.
if I know something right, and if I don't know it, like if I don't know it, like there's certain things I know in my life that I know to the T. You can't debate me because I know everything about it. And there's
Right.
other things that I don't, and I ain't one of these fronts out here that be like, yeah, I know that. That's my thing. I like to know. I like to know, man, because like here's the thing too, you know, we keep talking about the dudes, right? We keep talking about the dudes. Yeah,
Hmm.
like the dudes, yeah, cool, the dudes. The women.
Yes.
The women, they interview University of Maryland's head coach Brianna Fries, and
Hmm.
she made it very clear: the players in this region are just special. They're
Hmm.
different. They're
Hmm.
tougher. They're more fundamentally sound. They're skilled, right? And she basically says, like, yo, like, like when I recruited Marissa Coleman, you know what I mean? That's like like that's the thing. Like this thing that makes me so sad, Mike. Maryland and Georgetown shouldn't suck. They shouldn't
Never.
stink, bro. They should never stink.
Never.
Georgetown
It
shouldn't have lost every single conference game.
it, it
You know what I
I
mean?
I never. I mean, we've had teams, and even those Maryland teams that were successful, right?
Mm-hmm.
They still weren't full of players that were from this area, especially like the high. That
2002,
yeah. I
2002.
mean, but even that team, right? Like you looking at Juan Dixon, who was from Baltimore, but Juan Dixon he wasn't a highly recruited guy. Now Maryland was able to pull in. Excuse me, they were able to pull in Steve Francis, who's a name that we didn't even mention yet on here, but
Yeah,
Steve
yeah, sure.
Francis, who was an NBA guy, All Star. They were able to pull him
Part of the
in.
greatest dunk contest of all time.
Yes.
Yeah, you know how crazy that dunk contest in 2000 with Vince Carter is? Vince Carter outshadowed Tracy and Steve's dunks. You ever watch Tracy and Steve's dunks?
Yes. Yeah. They would have won any other dunk contest
Dude,
that were out there.
oh, like the one year Steve Francis was like, I'm gonna bring out my bag.
Yes.
Vince Carter was like, I'm gonna bring out my bag. and you're like, mother, what?
No, again, it's funny thing you say that. So, buddy of mine he has season tickets to Maryland basketball, and he took me and a group of friends to their Midnight Madness.
Mm-hmm.
This was the year Steve Francis. I hadn't even. He was one of those guys. I thought I kept my ear to the street, so to speak, on these kids around here. Didn't know who this guy was. Everybody, the arena was buzzing though. Oh man, Steve Francis.
Franchise.
He's coming. He signed out of JUCO. He went to JUCO. He came back home to Maryland. Bro, the dunks he was doing at the Midnight Madness, I was like, okay, this dude is special, special, special. So it was like, we did have a small stretch. Like we got players like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I totally agree with you. It should never go a year where we don't get at least 2 to 3 of the top 10 to 5 players in the state. It should never be that. It should never ever be that. And I know Gary Williams. Gary Williams wasn't a big fan of AAU basketball, so that's why a lot of those guys got out of here, unfortunately. But it shouldn't. I think Brenda Freeze does way better job of recruiting the area.
Even though she lost Angel
Reese.
Reese.
She lost. Yeah, and that was a huge loss. But she
I don't know
does.
What happened.
Yeah, I can't wait for that to. I can't wait for that to drop.
I don't know what the hell happened, man. I was like, it's like you're the star of the team. You're like, the only reason you guys didn't play better is that you had like 4 people that were injured. Yeah. So I'm like, why are you transferring? I'm confused here.
That came out of nowhere. I was not expecting
Ashley Owansu as well. You're like, wait, what? Yeah. What is going on now? You know what I mean?
Yeah. But she has done better in recruiting and keeping talent in the area than anybody else has. But you're right. None of these teams in this area should suck. None of them. Exactly.
It's like I bring it back to Georgia football, right? Kirby Smart has basically said, you can't come into the state of Georgia.
Yep.
You will not come into the state of Georgia ever and take my players.
Yep.
The dudes I'm going after in the state of Georgia are going to be wearing Bulldog colors. You know what I mean? You could steal someone I don't give a damn about because I don't need them. Sure. But the ones that I want, you ain't coming to take them. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like that's what people think. Like back in the 80s, the University of Miami became a powerhouse. Everyone knows this, right? Because Howard Schnellenberger mapped out a region of the South Florida, like this region right here. No one's allowed in here.
Off limits.
Make sure off limits.
Yep.
And you make sure nobody leaves. I remember Pete Carroll was told one time, Pete, why don't you ever recruit outside of the state of California? He said this, and I quote, the only time I would ever recruit outside the state of California for football is if I'm guaranteed that guy is going to the NFL.
Right. Yeah.
I don't need to go outside of California to get football players.
Yep. Take care home.
Southern California, from Rancho Cucamonga all the way to like the border. That's football region right there. And sometimes you can go up north, steal a couple kids from the Bay, go up north, steal some kids from Sacramento, and you got a solid team.
Mm-hmm.
Mikey, the 3 quarterbacks for 2 of the 3 biggest programs in all of college football. I know we're talking college football. I just want to make this point to the Maryland point. CJ Stroud, Bryce Young, and DJ Oyunglele. Clemson, Alabama, Ohio State.
Mm-hmm.
All from Southern California. Rancho Cucamonga, CJ, Mater Dei, Bryce, and St. John Bosco's DJ Uyunglele. DJ and Bryce played each other in the Trinity League.
Damn.
And USC was like, yeah, we don't want them. What?
Yeah. Ain't no way.
I would be like, you ain't leaving.
Yeah.
You ain't leaving. Over my dead body.
I get upset that I dream of the team and we could have just kept KD and Beasley home. Yeah. Like, can you imagine them? If it should have just been a smooth transition
with Nolan Smith.
Any of them. You could have picked Nolan. You could have picked, I mean, you had you had Nolan Smith, you had Ty Lawson, and I mean the ages are a little off, but you know Jared Jack, players like that got out of here. Jeff Green stayed local. He went to Georgetown, but like Rudy
Michael Thompson the
Gay,
third.
yeah, like
Yeah.
man, so much talent has gotten out of here.
How
That
you let Syracuse come into your region and steal
oh
Carmelo?
man,
I know that's Baltimore. I know that's Baltimore. You
yeah,
know,
but still,
PJ, but still, like,
you lock it in. You got to keep those
yeah,
kids home. Even if
man,
you,
like
even if you keep like look what Melo did at Syracuse.
1 year
Like he's a once in a lifetime talent. Like him
with
coming to
Jerry
Maryland,
McNamara.
yes, him coming to Maryland, like that could have been you playing for a
Hmm.
championship.
Exactly.
So it's always it's the
I don't
local
think so.
argument.
I don't think so. Maryland didn't have Jerry McNamara. I just want to point that out, man.
They didn't, but they
It,
might have had who they have around that
Steve
time.
Blake, I think.
Did they have
Steve Blake.
Steve Blake?
I think, yeah.
Yeah, but it's always the local argument here of like
Mm.
what could have been because we know the talent. The talent is here. We watch everybody come here and they pick. I mean, we just some people here are dancing today because we found out
Mhm.
that Villanova's coach Jay Wright retired.
Mhm.
He's known for coming here, like the guy Whitmore or whatever that the 5-star that was going to be playing for him next season
Mhm.
is a Maryland kid.
Chris Jenkins, Gonzaga High School.
Christian, yes, like
Mhm.
he's known for coming here. So it's like all of
Smart.
these guys. That's why I said like when we had the opening at Maryland, I was like, give Jay Wright whatever he needs.
Mhm.
Give him throw the biggest bag at him to see if he'll come here because he's going to keep the kids here.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely. And like I think we were talking about the UNC team that won the title in uh '07, I believe.
06 or 07, one of those.
Yeah, yeah. One of them. And apparently they won the national title, I think. Just want to double check it. Did they win? I don't think they won. Come on. Did they
I
win?
think they. I thought they won with Ty Lawson.
They lost to Kansas
Oh, did they lose that year?
in 2007. Or is it 06, 07? Is it 06, 07?
It might have been 06, 07.
Yeah.
But
And I was told that there was no 07, 08. It's got to be 08. Oh, man, it was 08, bro. I'm so stupid.
who gave us that bad information? Brodney.
Rodney or
Shout out
Derek.
to Brodney.
Rodney or Derek. Yeah, yeah, there it is, right there. The national title game in 08, 09, right here. And apparently they had how many Maryland Cats? Right here. That's Missouri. All right here. Todd Lawson from Clinton, Maryland.
Yes.
Oh, that's a bunch of Virginia Cats. What the
Some
hell
of
is
them.
Rodney talking about?
Some of those cats. And then sometimes they'll say DMV. They'll contribute to DMV as one area, like
Yeah,
in
because
DC, Maryland, Virginia.
yeah, Marcus Gilliard, Alexandria, Virginia.
Yeah, that's
And
close. That's close. That's like right outside of.
Ed Davis from Richmond, Virginia.
Yeah.
Yeah, a couple of cats. It was like I guess one Maryland cat and his like proper Maryland cat, Todd Lawson. Man, Rodney lied to me.
But Ty
He
Lawson
said
shouldn't have
four.
got out of here either.
Yeah,
Yeah, he
he
did.
shouldn't.
He did say it was
He
four on
said
that team.
four. He said four.
He's
Yeah,
he's probably thinking DMV area,
yeah.
but and even though to give him the benefit of the doubt, the DMV area they do count it as one region.
Yeah, yeah.
So, but
Yeah, it's Virginia, Maryland, and DC. Like
yeah,
that. Those are the three. Yeah, yeah. But this is like that's the larger region. Like that's the right
yes,
because like in Virginia you have Oak Hill Academy basically. That's that Carmelo, Ty Lawson, where they
yep,
went to. I remember
hmm
with Carmelo with the fro. Carmelo needs to bring back the fro. Just want to point that out. But I think
yes,
he has no more hair anymore. But it's
yeah,
sorry.
he cut it.
Yeah, he cut it all off. Yeah, so like there's that region, right? But we're talking about like the specific region within the region, right?
A
Like that
small piece of
like
that
like
region,
like literally
PG County.
literally one of the like literally like it's like you cutting cake and someone cuts
Yes,
out a small piece on accident. That small piece behind the bigger piece, 30 NBA players. And I think
yes,
over 15 WNBA players, I keep bringing
Yes.
up Marissa Coleman. Marissa Coleman, we all know, y'all know who Marissa Coleman is. I found out through this documentary the first time around, and then I looked her up, and I was like, oh, she a bad member gem.
Yeah.
She brought Maryland their not their first women's national title,
But
but
their
like,
last
but
and
their
their first
last.
in a long time.
Yeah, the first long time. But
Yeah.
here's the thing, Mike. We talking about all these young cats that left and stayed, but there was one guy that this documentary spent a section on that still says looms large throughout the region because he was the homegrown kid. He was the first homegrown kid. He was supposed to be the first homegrown kid. He was supposed to be the symbol for generations, but unfortunately, life took him away from us at an early age right away. It was the one, the only. It was Len Bias. I want to talk about Len Bias because this man, what Len Bias has become, Mikey, is a folk hero in like not even just like Maryland. You know what I mean? Like, see, here's the thing, Mikey, with me. Growing up, I love college ball better than pro ball. I didn't care about the NFL like that. I didn't care about the NBA like that. I didn't care. It was college football and college basketball. You give me a pro football player, I'll tell you where he went to college. Screw it. Some of these cats, I'll tell you where they went to high school. And then the select few that I know they're middle schools, but like that's not the point I'm trying to make here. Well, like, you know what I mean? But like seriously though, Len Bias, man. When I was watching that, Without Bias is another great documentary. Shoot, we may do that next. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Why not?
Let's
You
do
know,
it.
we may
Let's
do that
do
next.
it.
Why not? Do some Maryland centric documentary reviews with you and some of the cats from the DMV area or the Maryland area. But he was the one. He was the one. He was like, that's him. We got our guy. We got our symbol. We got the man. Is he still prominent in the area to this day, or has he kind of faded a little?
He's still prominent because it's like you said, it's that the unknown, right? Everybody has a story about Len Bias and the people that, especially people that grew up around that time, and so it's like you hear bits and pieces of different stories, and then you bring together. Like I remember my dad telling me, like, man, like so it was hard, even though Lenny being from here, it was still hard for me to believe that he was better than Michael Jordan. But you have people here that really believe that he would have been just as good, if not better than Michael Jordan. And and people say that to prove to you just how good this guy was. And he was supposed to be, like you said, he was supposed to be it. He was supposed to be that first superstar that came out of this area. So it still looms over the city because we really haven't. I mean, we had KD and a lot of other good players that came out of here, but it's still like that unknown of what he
He
could
was your
have been.
first.
Yes,
He was the
that
first. You know what I mean?
it still rocks this area because it's just like, damn, like you know he was supposed to be that guy. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
to get drafted to the Celtics and was going to play with Bird and stuff. Like, people had envisioned him winning championships. Like, everybody just knew, oh, man, Lenny Bias about to do his thing. And for him not to even put on the uniform is
Just
still
hold it.
like, yeah,
Just hold it. We
it
have the draft day.
rocks.
You ever watched it? You ever looked at those draft day pictures, Mikey?
Yes.
It's so
It's
heartbreaking,
eerie.
bro.
Yeah, it's
So
very eerie
heartbreaking.
to look at it now
Mm.
and just, yeah, man, it's still a cloud over this area because
Mm.
we just don't know. But all we have is those stories, man. Like, yeah, man, Lenny Bias was man, he's better than Jordan. I remember my dad telling me that. And I would be like, man, heck no, he's not. He was no way. And my dad would say he was just as good as Michael Jordan, if not better. And I was so me being I kind of grew up the way that you said you was into. Like I watched NBA, but I was into college sports too, and I was that guy too that could tell you what college that player would. Oh man, that's that guy from Michigan, or that's the guy that went to, you know what I mean. And so I went to look for myself, and the highlights that I could see, I'm like, yeah, this dude was nice.
It
He was
was.
really really good.
Man.
So it was a shame, man. Sad story, and I don't, I don't think we've had it since. Like I said, KD might be the might be the next closest to being
Mm-hmm.
that, but he didn't. KD didn't, because of the time when KD came in. It was other talent around KD.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? In the same area, like, so it wasn't like, we knew KD was good. We knew who he
Yeah,
was, but it wasn't like Lenny Bias. Like you said, he was it. He was the one.
yeah.
It was nobody touching this guy. So yeah, man. I don't. This city, this town, this area, this region, I don't think we'll ever get over that situation, man.
Mikey, if I told you I'm one of the people who think he would have been better than Michael Jordan, would you believe me?
I think I would.
Yeah, I'm one of those people because I'm one of those people because I here's the thing. Larry Bird comes out and says this. Hey, like if he played with us, right? I could have taken an extra couple months with my back rehab.
Yep.
You know, because here's the thing about the reason, Larry Bird. The thing no one wants to talk about what happened with Larry Bird is that Larry Bird screwed up his back in '85.
Mm-hmm.
In '86, he kind of screwed it up more, and he was like rehabbing, right? And he's like, "Yo, man, I'm screwed, bro." Red was like, "Hey, man, Larry, you can take your time, bro. I think I got the one.
Right.
I think I got the one. You can relax." And then Larry is supposed to like then retire a couple of years later because he's like, "Lenny got this. I'm out." You know what I mean? Lenny got this. I'm out. And he wouldn't have screwed up his back no more. And I watched the documentary Without Bias, and when Maryland first got him in there, they got him in the gym. The coach was like, "This dude is so goddamn undisciplined.
Mm-hmm.
This kid has all the gifts in the world. He just don't know nothing, And Len was like, "Man, whatever, man. Screw you, man. I know what I'm doing, man." He's like, "Man, you don't know nothing, And then it clicked, and he became. Here's the thing, too. Michael Jordan, 6'6", graceful, moves it through the air beautifully. Lenny Bias, 6'8".
Yep.
Jumper so smooth, it make your girl pregnant.
Yeah.
That mid range. Oh my god! Like I saw his form, right? It was like no wasted motion. It was up, down, boom, up, down, boom, and like boom, and I'm like, who is this man, and why don't I have his jersey?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like him, and Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf are the two jerseys I continue to hunt to this day, Mikey.
Mm-hmm.
Man, Lenny Bias was amen. I'm not from Maryland, and I'm like, that's the dude. That's him right there, man. Like imagine, dude, Michael Thompson Sr. or like Junior, I guess, the Big John Thompson.
Yeah,
man, you don't think he would be like, man, I want that kid. God damn it, how did I not get that kid? How did I not get him? You know what I mean? Well, he had Patrick Ewing, but that's not the point. You know what I mean? I
still want that. Everybody wanted that dude.
Yeah. Oh god.
But yeah, man.
The Celtics having the second pick and having to pick Len Bias after being in the finals in '85.
Yeah.
Like what?
Yeah, that's what's standing now. Rewatching it, that stood out to me again. I'm like, how the hell? But then if you watch the damn, what's the Lakers doc they got going on? Or not doc, but the show they have going on.
Winning Time.
Winning Time. And you see how they picked Red Auerbach. You're like, oh, okay, now it makes sense how he.
He's conniving and flowing. Yeah. Did you know that the Lakers got the number one pick after winning the NBA championship? Because they traded with, I think, who did they trade with? They traded with somebody, right? And they got the number one pick, and it was like either Worthy or Hawkins, or no, Wilkins. It was either Worthy or Wilkins. And they're like, who should we draft? Honestly, we can't go wrong either way. Who complements Magic better? Let's go Worthy. He's 6'9", smooth and solid, can run the floor. Let's go Worthy. But imagine if they drafted Dominique at number one. Yeah. Dominique just running the floor, catching lobs from Magic.
Super Showtime.
Oh my god! Like imagine, like Byron Scott wouldn't be the shooting guard. It would be Dominique and Michael Cooper, and you're like, whoa, damn. Sweet baby Jesus. Yeah. And like the forwards would be AC Green and Kareem and Kurt Rambis. And you're like, wow. Sheesh.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Yeah. But here's the thing, Mikey, like, this doc does get into some heavy stuff midway through, because they bring up Len Bias, and then they bring up the incident with Lenny where he overdosed on cocaine, which causes his heart attack. They bring up like the environment that these kids lived in, right? It was in the 80s. Cocaine became crack. And then Kevin Durant talks about it, how like, what I mean? Like you just were immersed in it. You like, it was left and right. I'm not trying to get into your story. Like I know you were there growing up with him. Like how did the region, like circumstance with some of these kids, you know what I mean? Like basically like they ended up saying, like, we're gonna talk about how like the city kind of not like saved these kids, but we're like, you know what, we need to give these kids a place of refuge, and they're like, you know what, like apparently PG County has the biggest public park system with over 400 parks, I believe. And over 400 parks, probably 100 or so have basketball courts. You know what I mean? Like, why not? It's you can build a basketball court with ease. You need concrete, some paint, and 2 hoops. You're good. And then they apparently built 46 rec centers. There's the Boys and Girls Club. There was I believe it was something Pleasant. I don't know what it was.
Seat Pleasant.
Seat Pleasant. There's Seat Pleasant. You brought up Run and Shoot. Apparently, one of them was called Pepper Hill. There's Pepper Hill, I think.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. So, like
Peppermint Hill or something like that.
Yeah. Peppermint Hill, I think. So, like their environment, like the drugs. There's probably I'm not gonna assume there were gangs, but like drugs.
Yeah, it was all that.
Yeah, with gangs. You know what I mean? And then but the city was like, we see this, but how about you go here?
Yeah.
How did that, like, because you were in it, Mike? Like, from your perspective, how did you see that growing up? You know what I mean?
You know what? It was one of those things that followed everywhere, right? Because even, so if you notice, PG County, it started off about how PG County is one of the, and still to this day, right, is one of the more affluent areas and for rich or well off black folks. So it's a really it's full of African Americans and minorities that do really well for themselves, right? But then you got outskirts everywhere you go, right? It's still those outskirts that you run into those issues. Where Jose and I, where we're from, really wealthy area, for the most part, diverse, but you still run into those things, right? So it became a time where you couldn't avoid it because, you know, unfortunately for players like KD and Michael Beasley and it, they from a very young age saw things like that because of where they grew up, but then they had family members that were hooked on those type of things, and involved in that type of lifestyle, so they couldn't get away from it. You know what I mean? But luckily they had basketball. That was their refuge, and they took advantage of that, and I'm glad that they did. And you had people like Curtis Malone, who a lot of people don't care for the guy, but if you look deep into what he did for certain players, like Michael Beasley himself, like
Nolan Smith,
yeah,
Quinn Cook.
He saved a lot of these cats, from being in that lifestyle. I mean, Quinn, surprising, but Quinn, when he lost his dad, like he was on the verge of going left. Mike Beasley Mike Beasley grew up. I would say Beasley's childhood situation, and he kind of alluded to it on the Pivot interview he did, was probably worse than all of theirs. You know what I mean? Like Nolan and Quinn, they were more so, kids who
they lost their fathers. Yes,
they lost their father figure and their fathers at young ages. KD, he didn't grow up in the best of areas either, but
but he had his mom as his rock. Yeah.
But Beasley, like he could have easily been, in the street, easily been one of those street guys and caught up in that lifestyle. So it just become, like I think KD even said it in the doc, like, it was like walking zombies. It just became something that these kids got used to, which is shameful, but it's just something that they couldn't get away from, man. That environment they grew up in, and they watched it unfortunately eat up a lot of people that they knew, and that's hard for a kid that age to have to look at that and
Mhm.
watch it, even watch family members. My own personal story, I had a brother that had a substance abuse problem. So watching that, you know, growing up watching it, you try to act like it's not there, but it's there. You know what I mean? And then,
Mhm.
so it does have certain traumas on kids growing up. And I was not nowhere near as good as those kids in football or anything like that. So in basketball. So I can imagine how it would have been on them. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So yeah.
Yeah, Mike. Yeah, man. I mean, I really appreciate you, sharing your story, man.
Cool.
Because it presents a full circle, man. Now I want you to something like that kind of caught me off guard in the documentary that I like how they're like, we got to talk about this, right? Someone probably was like in the pitch meetings, like, we have to talk about this, and it was like, really,
Hmm.
this? You're like, yes. You're like, how is this important? I'm gonna show you how, and they show me how it's important. Go music.
Yes.
That section on
Yes.
go music was like, when I first watched it, I was like, go music. How the hell they gonna connect go? Like, I know go music is the region's music, but I'm like, how? Like explain this to me. And then like the way they used it, I was like, yeah, man, it became our when we would work out, it became our workout rhythm.
Hmm.
We moved the way of the go.
Hmm.
So Mike, break it down, man. Going to go-go's.
So
What
I'm gonna be
you know?
honest with you.
You don't
Like
like go
I'm
music?
I'm so I'm not. I do, but it's not my favorite.
Okay.
I grew up I grew up closer to Baltimore, so like Baltimore has what they call club music. So
Oh, okay.
I kind of resonated with club music, but I always had friends and family who were fans of these. So the go go era came from the DC area, so it was like these two cities on either end of Maryland.
Mhm.
Are well, this is our music, this is my music, and you almost had to choose a side, right? And most of the time the side was chose for you. Like where we grew up at, we were closer to Baltimore, so we kind of gravitated to that. People who grew up in PG County kind of gravitated to the lifestyle of DC. It was just what the closest cities to you. But man, let me tell you, I wasn't the biggest fan of go-go music. Like I said, I could tolerate it. I did like it, but I wasn't
Mhm.
the biggest fan. But those go-go parties,
Like,
they
okay, so Nolan Smith, right? He moved to Maryland when he was 8, right? So he was
mhm,
like, so he didn't know what the hell go-go was. You know what I mean? He's like
mhm,
growing up in it. And then Bees was like, yo, I'm gonna take you to a go-go party.
yeah,
And like the way Nolan Smith like described it, was like it's a hot room,
yes,
a lot of bodies,
yes,
sweat. It's like
yes,
it's just like hopping around, jumping. You know what I mean? Like like
yeah,
it sounded like a fun time because and then he's sitting in the back like just watching him. He's like,
yeah. it's
you
it's
know
a
what I mean?
fun time.
Yeah,
You become a man when you leave a go-go party. I'll just say
oh,
that.
oh wow,
Because you are like, I mean, it's everybody having a good time, right?
yeah,
And depending on your age, when the first time you go, right?
hmm
Even the first, no matter how old you are, the first time you go, you're gonna be blown away because it's you can't describe like the vibe of the party, um, and it's nonstop. So go-go music is basically all the time upbeat, right? They
it's like
got
percussion
yeah,
based.
it,
Bongos, drums.
yep,
I saw someone with like a guitar and I think a
yeah,
saxophone.
yeah. I
Like
mean, but the baseline of it is congos, you know, um, the tambourine stuff like
mhm.
that. It's like that. It's always mostly an upbeat. So the party is always like jumping. It's
Yeah,
always jumping. It's nonstop. So most other music, most other genres of music have that. you know, typical party you go to, right?
Yeah, yeah.
You know, you hear the songs you want to hear, everybody dancing, and then they have those lull moments. They play something a little slower, people chilling a little bit. You
Yeah,
know, I
yeah.
might go to the bathroom now. Nah, go-go's are nonstop, just party. You know what I mean? And everybody having a good time, and it's just you leave there and you like, wow, like
You've
what the
lost
hell
like
did I
4 pounds. Like
you
you just
lost
lost
4 pounds.
yeah.
You probably, you know, depending on, you know, like Quint. I mean, Nolan. He's a young guy. Probably got his first kiss that night from somebody he didn't know. It's
Mhm.
like that type of deal. It's
Yeah.
like that. It's
Wild.
yeah. It's wild.
Yeah.
It's wild.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, because like man, like when I was like, because they're like, um, I was about to say, what about to say to go the way I got a mean two step. You know what I mean? I got a
Mm-hmm.
good sway. I got a good sway. You know, man, I got a good sway. You know, hey,
Yeah.
hey.
You
I
fit
can't,
in.
I can't, I can't, I
You
can't fit with the go man. I'll be
no
like
no.
jumping straight up.
You'll fit it because listen, it all starts with the two step, right?
Oh, okay,
And
all
then
right.
you like the beat, you'll feel that beat. And as long as you hear it, you'll hear it all night. You'll hear it all night.
Yeah.
And like I said, every go-go song has the same bass line.
Mm-hmm.
It's that same beat, but then they add something else to it, like you mentioned, the guitar or the drums or something else or the saxophone. Then that's
Mm-hmm.
what changes the song. But the melody and the bass line of it is all pretty much the same.
Yeah.
So
Well,
once that rhythm, it just hits you. It all starts with the two step, but it hits you, and then you next thing you know, you dancing just like everybody else in the
yeah.
party.
No, that's true. Cause like, and then like I said, Mike, like, how are they gonna make this relevant to the game of basketball, right? And then they did, cause like I brought up, Noah Smith said it became our rhythm to working out. We worked out through the go-go music. That's the way we
Mm-hmm.
flowed. And then and then and then Michael Beasley expands upon that and says, Ty Lawson and KD, they do the hands up. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, what the hell is a hands up? And then he was like, most countries call it a hezi or a
Yeah,
hesitation. I'm
yeah,
like, oh, and he's
yeah,
like, when we go, our hands are up. You know what I
yep,
mean? I guess that's what he's trying to say.
yeah,
And just like when we doing a hesitation, and then I'm like, what do you mean hands up? What do you mean hands up? And then they slow motion on KD doing a hesitation,
yeah,
and you see both of his hands are up, and I'm like, he's like, hands up. You're like, hands up.
yep,
But he has the ball in his hand. I'm like, oh, what I mean?
yeah,
And he's like, that's reminiscent of go-go music. The way the hesitation we do on a dribble drive that gets
yeah.
us space comes from the go-go. And I'm like, that's a smooth way of connecting go-go music, dog. You know what I
It
mean? Like,
really
how did
was
you
though.
think about that? How do you think about that smooth connection with the go-go?
No, I thought that. I mean, again, that was something else that blew me away with this doc too. Like, you know, even just being from this region, you know, and knowing about the music and stuff like that. The way he spelled that out, the way he explained that was was beautiful. Like I never would have thought, even to rewatch it again today, and like, damn, like the way he put that is like, you know what? He has a point. Like, you know, they call it the hezzy, and we call it put your hands up. He said, nah,
Mhm.
people didn't know that. And that is it was you know, the picture he painted in telling that story with the music, it makes complete sense. It makes complete sense. But I never thought about it that way until seeing him explain it that way.
Yeah, man. I was like, yo, blow my threw me off. I was like, whoa, what
Yeah.
the hell? Like it just threw me off. I was like, that's a great connection, man. Honestly, so like I was like, it coming from Michael Beasley too. Like, no offense to Michael Beasley, I love Michael Beasley.
Right.
But sometimes he's not like all there.
Yeah.
Sometimes,
Yeah.
like the way, like, see, here's the thing about the game, right? The game of basketball. It makes certain players like sometimes they're not all there. Sometimes like they're over here, right? But then like it focused Michael Beasley. Like, let me explain to you why the go-go is like
Yeah.
connected to the b-ball game. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And then
He can
boom.
talk that about anything. You can tell
Mm-hmm,
basketball is one of those things for him. No
mm-hmm.
matter how crazy he appears or he's coming off, he's as normal as can be when he's
Yeah,
explaining basketball.
yeah. All right, so now I think we're probably gonna end on the last topic they had was we brought them up a couple of times, right?
Hmm.
But it was the premier AAU team in the region,
Hmm.
led by Curtis Malone. Is DC Assault. We all know what happened with Curtis Malone because the documentary tells us he creates this basketball team, basically creates a second chance for kids that He's seeing, because like it started with DeMar Johnson. DeMar Johnson was, I believe, was a 6th pick in the NBA draft. I think 6th or 7th. He played for the Hawks, played for the Nuggets. Y'all know, ball players know who he is. And then he gets told about this kid named Michael Beasley, 6'9" lefty. He's basically like Michael Beasley says, he saved my life.
Yeah.
And then Nolan Smith. Nolan Smith's one is more, I think, I'm not saying complicated, kind of tricky, because Nolan played on DC Assault because Nolan was the second best dude in the entire region, because Nolan makes sure he's like, I wanted to be number 1, but Dan Bees was next to me. That's why I was number 2, but I wanted to be number 1. He starts coaching. Curtis Malone starts coaching him, and then Curtis Malone marries his mom, because at the age of 8, Nolan Smith loses his father, who was a head coach, who's a coach for the Washington Bullets. He died on an overseas trip. So and then like he became a polarizing figure, because he was more than just a AAU coach.
Yeah.
He was apparently also a drug kingpin. Not apparently, he was a drug kingpin who apparently, like, I don't know all the facts. I didn't read it, but like what I'm gleaning from the documentary is like he ran cocaine on the Eastern Seaboard through that region, and he was the main guy.
He was the man.
He was the man. He was the guy. That was him. Because I remember this famous story. John Thompson, this one cat. I don't know what his name is, but he was
Rayful Edmonds.
Rayful Edmonds. Yes, thank you, Mikey. Yes. But he was Curtis Malone. He was Curtis Malone, and he was at Georgetown practices. He was at Georgetown things. And Thompson, that's why John Thompson Jr. is a gangster, bro. Straight up. He brought Rayful Edmonds into his office. And then he's like, Rayful, I know who you are. Right. I know what you do. I'm sorry. You can't hang around my program or near my players.
Leave my kids alone.
Leave my kids alone. And that's when like, back then the game had rules. Rayful probably sat there like, who the hell does this man think he is telling me what to do?
Yeah.
And John Thompson was like, leave my kids alone. Stay away from them. And these weren't just like ordinary like kids. It's like, stay away from Patrick Ewing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Alonzo Mourning, those guys.
Alonzo Mourning. Yeah. Like Hakeem Olajuwon. Yeah. AI. Yeah. You know what I mean? Reggie Williams from Dunbar. You know what I mean? It wasn't like some like, hey, Sidney Johnson. Right. You know what I mean? Well, also probably too. But here's the thing about John Thompson. He said, stay away from Sidney Johnson too.
Yeah.
Stay away from everybody. And like the amounts of respect you got to have to tell the head of running drugs on the Eastern Seaboard, stay away from my kids. And he listened.
Yep.
Like, all right, John, I'm staying away.
Yep.
Curtis Malone basically was that guy, but he was also John Thompson. So he was John Thompson. No, I'm not saying he is John Thompson. Y'all need to calm down. I'm not saying that. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that. I'm just saying he was a coach and he was the drug dealer. So like, if he did that meeting, he would be talking to himself.
Talking to himself, I mean? Yes.
Exactly. And like, here's the thing, Mikey. This doc is a couple years old, and he just was released from prison earlier. When people found out, right? Like the doc tells us, oh, people found out, and he became. When people found out, what was the feeling? Like, do you remember the feeling of when they found out? Like, you heard about what happened to Curtis Malone? Like, what happened? He had kingpin. You know what I mean? Like, what was going through people's like, yo, what? Like, what was happening? Like let's talk about that.
It was crazy. It was pandemonium in the basketball world, because it was like everybody knew DC Assault, right, in this area. So it was like, and of course the media spun it as, founder of DC Assault, so that was pushed to the forefront more than anything. DC Assault, this program that houses all these kids, blah, 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 blah. So that was more so, that's what put it in the forefront and made it a story that everybody knew. Like, they might not have known who Curtis Malone was, but they knew. Once they heard DC Assault, they would say, okay. Oh, the people that run DC Assault, what? That was a drug organization? So it just went left from that. But it was I remember when it happened, man, and it was just like, yo, they were shady. DC Assault was shady. Because the AAU, it was around that time with DC Assault. I would say it was probably about 4 to 5 really competitive local AAU teams. It was a bunch of AAU teams, but those 4 to 5 was getting all the players.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, it also became a situation like the shady side of it became, oh man, let's go get their players, or let's because that's going to end and it's going to disband and all of that, and that's exactly what happened. Like
Mm-hmm.
DC Assault went from being the top to disappearing because of this situation, and it was just in the basketball world, it was craziness. It was just craziness because that's who we knew DC Assault as, the top of the top, and they just went away. Um, you know, a lot of the players, have kind of obviously moved on to different spots, but he had a lot of players that were loyal to him. You know what I mean? And well, there's a lot of people in this area that don't agree with what he did, and rightfully so.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't look past what he did do, like you said, for people like Michael Beasley, who said this dude saved my life. No matter what he did, he was wrong, but he saved my
Mm-hmm.
life. And you can't take away that impact that he had on a lot of these kids. DeMar Johnson was the Gatorade Player of the Year, but another kid that didn't have didn't know right
Mm-hmm.
from left until Curtis Malone got involved with him, and helped him,
Yeah.
along the way. So it was another story that it definitely rocked. It definitely rocked the region. In the on the basketball circuit for sure. But it was nuts. It was craziness, man. It was
Mm-hmm.
crazy. It was a shock to it was a shock to everybody when they found out what was really going on.
I mean, because I think it felt to like the people, right? Like people like the thing is like me is like we're so obsessed with the bad guy, like the bad guy, right? The alleged bad guy. People, you know how many people watch like serial killer documentaries and they try to be like, what, like you know how many docs about Ted Bundy? You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
yeah.
Like I'm not saying Curtis Malone's Ted Bundy. I'm not saying that, but like the good guy, people don't find interesting because like they're just good guys. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like the bad guy that he like Curtis Malone, he's a kingpin. He's a drug lord. You know, like that's not something we're gonna debate.
Mm-hmm.
But like then you have like Michael Beasley, Nolan Smith, Quinn Cook, DeMar Johnson say that man saved my life, and I'm like,
Yeah.
because we automatically assume good guy's good guy because he's a good guy, bad guy, bad guy, bad guy. Like,
Mm-hmm.
but then like the bad guy is saving these kids' lives, and then like some good guys have done horrible things.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And like the humans are so complex beyond comprehension, bro. You
Mm-hmm.
can't just say, "Oh, this one person is like this." Curtis Malone probably had a code where he lived by, where he's like, probably, you know what? He probably used DC Assault as repentance.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Possibly. Like, I do this horrible thing. How am I gonna like? It's like the mafia boss who donates to the church. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Exactly.
I've
Exactly.
like this week I've killed 4 people, but let me go donate 10 grand to the father. You know what I
Right.
mean? It's and like we find those people interesting. Like, are they like Tony Soprano? Man's a horrible person,
Yeah.
but people love him because they want to dissect him. They want to like pick his brain. Like what is this? Like what is it? And I think Curtis Malone. I'm not condoning what he did. I'm saying like I want to know what's going on here.
Yeah. Yeah.
What is going on with him? Like what's going on with him? Because like I think too, it's also the being a black man aspect of it, right? Like these like I'm not condoning it, but year after year we have these movies and these TV shows about these criminals that, but like if it's a black criminal, you're not
Mm-hmm.
allowed to be like like where's like the like the mafia, like
Mm-hmm.
the Italian mafia. Who doesn't love the Godfather? You know
Right.
what I mean?
Right.
And how many people have defended the Godfather? Like, I understand where Michael comes from. You know what I mean? Like, I
Right.
understand. You know what I mean? But black men, when when they became a criminal, when they like he's a criminal, they're like, oh, I don't care that he did good, but like what was going through his mind? No one wants to understand. Don't
Right.
condone it, and like, but like I want to know like what was going through your mind. I think that's my own curiosity about
Yeah.
Curtis Malone. But you know what I mean? But I think like because like this the world's so obsessed with like these bad dudes, and they wanted to find out like why is he a bad dude? What happened? Like I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, yo, Curtis, what were you thinking? Like, what was going through your mind? They're like, you know what? I'm gonna create a premier AAU basketball program while shifting cocaine up and down the coast.
Right.
Like, what kind of wildness were you thinking of, dog? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they had Curtis on the phone a couple times when
Mm-hmm.
they were talking about DC assault. But like, literally, I was like, what the heck is going on? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
why do you think that? You know what I mean? Like, why? I just, it's crazy, man. It's crazy to me.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think with Curtis Malone, I think he got caught up in a
Mm-hmm.
situation where the money was fast. It was coming a lot quicker than he expected it to come,
Mm-hmm.
and then he couldn't get away from it. You know what I
I believe.
mean? And again, like you said, not condoning it.
Mm-hmm.
You're spot on, right? There's a lot of situations where these guys are, they do what they do, and again, not condoning it, but on the back end of some of those things, they've helped a lot of people. And you can't be mad at those people who support these people because of what they done. Like again, we keep running back to Michael Beasley, but he said he saved he saved his life. DeMar Johnson, he turned DeMar Johnson into the number 6 pick in the NBA draft. He put millions of dollars in that man's pocket. You know what I mean? Just by showing him the way. Kevin Durant, Noah said, taking on kids that he didn't have to. You know what I mean? Somebody
Mm-hmm.
calling him and saying, "Yo, I got this 6'9" dude, lefty, but he live in DC and his life ain't that great." And he went and got him. And let these kids move in with him. Quinn Cook, dad died, man. I got you. I know it's
Mm-hmm.
hard, but I'm help. So, you can't take, regardless of how you feel about him, you can't take those things away from,
Yeah. Exactly.
what he did. So, but I'm the same way as you. Like, what the hell were you thinking? Like, what made you start that in the first place? What made you
Yeah.
say, hey, man, hey, I'm gonna make this run
Yeah,
just real quick?
like you got two keys in your hand, like you know what, and like you talking to your homies, guys. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna create an AAU team.
Right.
Like what? Yeah, an AAU team. I'm gonna do that. Why? Because I can. I want to do that.
Right.
And you know what? And guess what, man? You know what? And we created something special here, Mike. Like DC Assault. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Mikey, it's come. I really appreciate you coming on here, man.
Yeah, man.
Talking this, man. You know what I mean? Because I didn't, because I watched this the first time around. I had a bunch of questions, but I didn't want to bombard, you,
Oh man.
Jose, and Rodney and Brandon, because I know y'all from Maryland, y'all from that region. I mean, I don't want to bug you. And like, I didn't know how y'all cared about the hoop scene, because we always talk about football, right? Football, football, football. I don't know like how y'all cared. And like you
Yeah.
responded like, yo, Ferris, love it, bro. And I was like,
Love it.
Mikey, let's do this. You know what? We may do another one. Like I said earlier, we may do the Len Bias one. Maybe.
Let's do it. I'm with it.
You want to do it?
I
Let's do it.
love talking about this stuff.
Yeah.
I noticed that me and you had a connection on certain things too with sports, because a lot of times you and I go back and forth on like um, local prospects, or
Yeah.
like especially on the women's college basketball side, which gets slept on a lot. But
Mm-hmm.
we discussed Angel Reese and some of those other prospects that's out
Yeah.
there. So I'm like, okay, yeah. So, but
Yeah.
I'm listen, man. I love doing this. So any
Yeah.
question, anytime you want to get back on here, let's do it. I'm with it.
Hey man. Hey man, you know what? Let's do it, man. The Highlight Sports Show presents Highlights Reviews, where we're gonna be breaking down sports documentaries. I love talking about sports, but we need to talk about how sports are being documented. Are they documented good? Are they documented bad? What's going on? You know what I mean? Like there's a bunch out there that aren't talked about. We have a catalog of 30 for 30s. We have a catalog of HBO documentaries. Showtime got weird documentaries. I'm like, I didn't know I had needed this. Straight up, like I was making a joke earlier before we got on camera. Showtime was like, "Y'all want a Cypress Hill doc? Here," and you're like, "Sure,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
awesome." you know what I mean, I'll take it. But on that note, guys, thank you guys for coming to watch us. This is gonna be I don't know what we're gonna release it on make sure to like, subscribe on this video. It's gonna be on the audio feed. Look up Let's Get Ready Network on all your audio feeds: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Anchor, Breaker. Look up Let's Get Ready on that search bar. We're gonna pop up. Comment. You know what I mean? You know, did I get something wrong? Maybe. You know, comment on your feeling. If you, you know, if the Maryland homies, like if y'all have more information about it, drop it in the comments, bro, and let's talk it. You know what I mean? And that's all. That's all I gotta say. But now let me take it to Mikey. Mikey, where can they find you, my brother?
Man, listen. First of all, Ferris, thanks for having me on.
My
Again,
pleasure,
this
brother.
was dope. Good conversation. Let's do it again, like we already stated. But you can find me on Twitter, man. OTR_Mike. Find me as 1/4 of the Off the Record podcast. Check us out on all your streaming platforms. Check us out on YouTube at Off the Record Podcast. I like to say the real Off the Record Podcast because we had the name first. And then I'm 1/3 of the Ring Kings podcast. Please follow and subscribe. We're close to 100 subscribers, which will then turn me into the biggest UFC fan in the world. I'm not a big fan right now, but I'm gonna get into it once we get 100 subscribers. But with everything boxing, man, check it out. And yeah, man, that's it.
All right, man. Everybody, stay safe, stay cool, and come back next time.